Hi Wizarding World. So we're back from our cruise. It was amazing. Yeah, I just kind of want to catch you guys up because we've been gone for almost 2 weeks. And ever since we got back, I've been trying to get back on my proper sleep schedule, and I've been going to work, and I missed everybody at work. It's really nice to be back, but it was also really nice to have a break. Yeah, so we went on a Mediterranean cruise on Norwegian Cruise Line. We were on the Epic, which is one of their biggest ships. It was huge. I barely felt the ocean at all when we were on it. When I was on my cruise in February, I never got seasick, but there were definitely times where you were like, whoa, because the boat would move and you'd have to catch yourself and stabilize yourself, and yeah, and then you felt weird when you got on land. I didn't feel that at all on this cruise. That boat is huge. We flew from Orlando to Miami, and then we had a layover, and then we went from Miami to Barcelona. We had 2 days in Barcelona before we got on the boat. And we had the rest of that day, because we departed around like 5 or 6. So we had that day, and then we had a day at sea. And we went from Barcelona to Naples, Italy. And when we went to Naples, we went over to Pompeii, and we got to see the ruins. It was so, it's so fascinating to go there, because the town is literally everything from that time period still, well, not intact. But a lot of things are still kind of there. You can still see mosaics. You can still see the murals painted on the walls with the terracotta, and it's amazing. And their stores had sliding doors, and they had fast food restaurants, and they had bathhouses, and they had brothels, which were actually really, really amusing. Because they literally had menus that had like pictures of like, do you want a guy? Do you want a girl? Do you want butt stuff? What do you want? It was great. It was really fun to see the whole way of life of time back then and how advanced they were for it being so long ago. And everything was so preserved because it was covered in the ash from the volcano, and you know, everything was lost and forgotten until they found it when they were excavating. And yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to see that. And so yes, so in Naples we went to Pompeii, got back on the boat. The next day we went to our port was Civitavecchia in Italy. And we drove to Rome that day. Rome was very crowded. It's summer. It was very crowded. We went to the Colosseum. We drove around different places. We saw the Trevi Fountain. We had this amazing driver for our car that we rented out. Not rented out, but you know, we paid for a car to drive us around. His name was Salvatore. He was fantastic. He knew so much about Rome. He knew so much about the country of Italy. Pointed things out left and right and explained like what they were and when they were built and just all the history, and it was so great. So yeah, he was pointing things out, telling us things. You know, when we stopped, we went to the Colosseum. We saw the Trevi Fountain. We then went to the Vatican. They don't recommend going to the Vatican for anyone, and it has nothing to do with religious reasons. It was so crowded in the Vatican. All we wanted to do was see the Sistine Chapel, which is a part of the Vatican Museum. They make you wind through the entire museum before you get to the Sistine Chapel at the end. It was so crowded. We were like sardines, and my poor little Disney brain was like, this can't be safe. You can't have this many people in this area. It's not safe. It's legitimately not safe. It was so overcrowded. It was terrible. It was also very warm. It wasn't hot like Florida, and it wasn't as humid as Florida, but there was no air conditioning, and there were so many bodies, and it was like 82 degrees maybe, and it was just hot and stuffy, and I started getting uncomfortable. I could tell that Zach's parents were uncomfortable. I could tell that Zach was uncomfortable, and I asked him, and I said, what do they do if someone starts having a panic attack because you're so enclosed in here and you're literally being shoved to this museum like cattle? Like, it was awful. And so that was when Zach was holding my hand really tight, looked at me and was like, you mean like I'm starting to have right now? And I was like, oh, because Zach is autistic and he can only handle certain scenarios such as that for so long before he starts to not be okay. And it was starting to happen, and we hadn't even gotten through the museum, and there were no exit ways. Like, you couldn't get out. You were stuck there. So we managed to get him out, and we managed to get through the rest of the museum. Didn't even care about the Sistine Chapel when we got to it. So it was literally, I felt like it was such a waste of our time. It was a waste of our money, and I was kind of like, well, I give money to the Roman Catholic Church. I really shouldn't have done that, because, it really didn't do me any favors growing up either. Not my favorite thing in the world. But we all know how I feel about religion. So yeah. We were really, really done after that. We went to lunch. Lunch was amazing. We had a prefixed menu, which is where they have a set menu and they bring you what they have on the menu. So we had a whole bunch of vegetables that were, I don't even know how they were prepared, but they were like pickled or something. I don't know. But we had carrots and zucchini and eggplant. I don't like eggplant. I loved this eggplant. It was so good. The carrots were delicious. Zach's mom hates cooked carrots, and she loved them. Like, it was so good. So we were just eating veggies left and right. And then they brought us another course. Oh, and they brought us pizza, and they brought us like prosciutto and salami and like a meat tray and the pizza. And then after we finished that, then they brought us ravioli. And then after the ravioli, they brought us another pasta dish. And we had no idea we were getting that many rounds. And then they brought us dessert, which was this incredible cake. And before I had known that we were getting dessert with it, I was like, is there gelato? Like, carelessly being like, I haven't had gelato in Italy yet. Like, is there gelato? And they were like, yeah, but we're gonna bring you cake. And I was like, oh, sure, cake is great. I wasn't gonna argue with like whatever their prefix menu was. And then at the end, they brought us gelato because I mentioned it. And they didn't charge us for the gelato. It was amazing, and it was so good. It was so good. So we were all pretty, I don't want to say we were rejuvenated after lunch, but we felt a lot better. Zach was still really, really drained because once he has a panic attack, he's done for the day. His emotional meter is spent and he's done, and he needs to sleep to completely reset himself. And so we had a couple of other places that we wanted to stop at, and we just looked at Salvatore and we were like, can you just drive us around and like tell us what things are, because we're done. So unfortunately that was the end of Rome. But we got to drive past the Parthenon, and we saw a couple other important buildings and got to, see more of the city. So we drove around, and then he drove us back to the port. And the next day, Zach was feeling much better. He wasn't completely back to normal, but he was a lot better. We went to Florence. Our port was Livorno. And so, hi, what you doing? So yeah, port was Livorno, and then we drove from Livorno to Pisa. We stopped and we saw the tower. We didn't go up in it, but we stopped and we got to see it. We got to see the little town really quick. Didn't spend a lot of time. Got back in the van, went to Florence. Florence is amazing. It is so beautiful there. It's clean, it's nice, it has good history. Like, there's all these things that have happened, like the palace where the I feel so bad that I don't know this. It wasn't the monarchy, but like the people who were in charge of Italy for a while lived in this palace. And the palace, once the democracy changed, not democracy, they're a republic now. Once the government changed in Italy, the palace was turned into a museum. So we got to go in the museum. We saw, they had a huge costume exhibit. They had a lot of modern things, like different suits, different things off the runway, a lot of things that I was like, this is cool to see. I took pictures of it all anyway. But then they had a smaller selection throughout it of different extant garments. They were so beautiful. I was just like taking my time and oogling all of them, and I took lots of detailed pictures to document them all. And you know, they went all the way back to like, what was that one dress from? It was around like the Tudor period, but of course in Italy, and they were really dissolved, so they had them out like really well displayed and all in like glass cases and preserved. And so yeah, it was around the Tudor period and like the Renaissance, so think like 1500s. Pieces from one of the families that was, you know, really high up in Italy at the time, and they were just gorgeous. And so we had things from then, and then we had things from the 1700s, and there were things from the 1800s, and it was so good to see. It was so pretty. So, you know, went through the exhibit, saw a couple of things in the museum, and then the palace is really known for its gardens. It has the fountain of my brain isn't working. Poseidon? That's not his Roman name, is it? I'm sorry. I'm still like out of whack from everything. But, you know, it has it's basically Poseidon, you know, the Roman equivalent. Neptune. There we go. So it has the Fountain of Neptune, which is probably like the most famous statue in it, but there's all these other statues in it, and it's huge and lush and gorgeous. And we wandered around it for a bit. We got to see it, and then we headed down, and by that time we were hungry, so we had reservations at the Golden Eye Open Bar, which is, our driver that day told us, it's probably the most expensive restaurant in Florence. And we were like, that's fine. So we ate there. I had ravioli. Zach and his dad shared a pasta dish and then a steak because they ate so much steak on that trip. Surprised they weren't like pooping out a solid cow. But yeah, I had a ravioli dish and it was delicious, and I can't remember what Claire had, and we had a couple appetizers, and then the boys aren't dessert people really, so Claire and I had dessert. She had dark chocolate mousse and it was incredible, and I had a gelato sampler and it had 5 different flavors. It had like strawberry, vanilla, chocolate, pistachio, and hazelnut, and they were all so good. And they were just these little tiny, like, here's this flavor and here's this flavor, little tiny samplings. It was so good. So good. And the wine there was to die for. I am not a huge drinker. I'm not. I like my sweet white wines. So like, I like my Rieslings, I like Moscato. That's about it. Anyway, so I had a glass of Moscato there. I ended up having 2 glasses of Moscato because it was so good. It was the sweetest thing I had ever tasted. It was amazing. And yeah, just alcohol in Europe is so good. So good. We wandered around the city after that. We saw the cathedral. It's gorgeous. We didn't go in it, but it is stunning there. And then we went to the Da Vinci Museum, where this artist has studied all of his inventions and the drawings, and they recreated all of them. And a lot of them are hands-on, so that you can actually like turn the crank and see how this thing worked. And it was amazing to actually get to see like how incredible Da Vinci's mind was. And there was a small little section that had like, they weren't the originals of his paintings, but like, you know, copies, so that you could, and it like, it talked about like his paintings and like his work and how he, you know, formulated things and this and that. So yeah, it was really cool. So that was Florence, and then we headed back to the boat. Then we went over, the next day we went to Cannes, France, which is a cute little port city in France, really beachy, really cute. Zach's parents went up to Monte Carlo. They had a driver and they went up there. Zach and I wanted a nice easy day, and we're not, Zach and I don't gamble. And Zach's parents don't gamble much either, but they wanted to go, so they went. But like, we chose to have a day to ourselves, and we went to the beach. We had dinner at a wonderful restaurant. Zach tried escargot for the first time, and he actually liked it. I've had it before, but it was really cool to actually have escargot in France. And it was, yeah, we just kind of had a beach day, enjoyed ourselves, relaxed. It was lovely. I was the most uncomfortable in France because French is the language that, like, I don't understand at all. I don't know how to pronounce it. I took Spanish in school, and then when I had vocal lessons growing up, we had to sing in Italian, so like, bless you. I'm not great at languages to begin with, but like, I felt more comfortable in Spain, and then in Italy, at least I knew how to pronounce things, so like, I felt more grounded and more comfortable. But like, when it comes to French, I'm like, I don't have a clue how to say these things. You drop half the letters. I don't understand the consonants. So yeah. But despite the fact that I could barely understand my waiter, who didn't speak a lot of English, and poor guy was trying so hard to like be like, this is the menu, and I was like, yeah, whatever you say. But besides that, we had a really nice day. It was really lovely. And then the next day, it was the last day on the boat, last full day. We were at Palma, Majorca, which is an island in Spain. And Zach's parents wanted to really go out with a bang, so they got us a private yacht. So the four of us were in this private yacht, and it had a captain and his first mate that was sailing it. And they made us tapas, which are like plates that you share with everybody. So you have lots of different plates and of different types of food, and you share it. So we had like mussels and shrimp and meatballs and just everything. It was so good, so good. And they had some cava, which is a Spanish wine that is only really made in that area. And so they had some of that, and they mixed it with some elderflower liquor, which makes it really sweet. So we had some of that on the boat, and it was amazing and wonderful. And they have snorkeling equipment on their boat, so you know, we took the boat out to a certain spot, docked, went swimming, got back on the boat, ate some food, sailed to another spot around the island, docked, swam some more, ate some more food, drank some more, you know, enjoyed the day. And it was so beautiful, and it was so wonderful, and the Mediterranean Ocean is so gorgeous, and especially around that island, the water is blue and crisp and clear, and it's gorgeous. It's so pretty. It was an amazing way to finish the last day of the cruise. And then you know, we finished up the boat. The next day we got to port, got out. We had the rest of that day in Barcelona, and then the next day we flew home. And while we were in Barcelona, when we were there in the beginning, we went to the cathedral. We went to the Palau de la Música. It's their music hall there. It's stunning and gorgeous and beautiful, and we did a tour of that and wandered around. We went to the Picasso Museum, and we saw a whole bunch of like original Picasso pieces, and like, it was amazing. Being a kid that like took art history and had art classes growing up my whole life, it was amazing to actually get to see all of these pieces, some of which I've seen like in books and in my classes and all these things, and actually get to see them in real life, and, you know, read about his history and his upbringing, and, you know, what inspired him to move through the Cubist movement and all these different things. And it was amazing. It was so amazing. So we got to do that, and then the very last day when we were back in Barcelona, we went shopping in their big shopping district. It's called La Rambla, and it's right next to the Gothic street, and which is where like the architecture is very Gothic and beautiful and stunning, and just, it's gorgeous. So we went shopping, and by shopping I mean I bought a fan. We bought a fan for one of our friends, bought a couple little knickknacks, but like, we barely spent any money at all. There was a natural store which had like crystals and dream catchers and incense and all the things that like I love and Zach's parents really like. And Zach can't stand the smells because he's really sensitive. So I got my star necklace, and the day I got this, it was the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year, the Litha holiday in the Wiccan culture. So I got my necklace to remind me that, like, hey, I was in Barcelona, Spain on the solstice. So I got this and I got a fan. Other than that, I really didn't buy much on the trip. We did a lot of eating and doing, like going out and seeing things and having experiences. And this trip really kind of resonated that with me, where like I've always liked buying souvenirs, I like buying things for people, and I still like giving like presents to people, and I still like things. But it really made me realize that I don't always need the things. You know, I got a couple little souvenirs and that was great. And we have an album on Facebook that we've all contributed to. We have over 2,000 pictures. And those are great memories. And those are wonderful, and we had those experiences and we were together, and that's what really matters. It's been a really good trip and really good experience to help me kind of put myself where I need to be. And yeah, it was really good. So, glad I'm home. Glad we're all home safe, and I hope you guys have been good. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think. If any of you guys have any fun stories from traveling to Europe, let me know. I'd love to hear, because it's a completely different place over there, and yeah, it's really great. So I hope you guys had fun and have a great day. Bye.